Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the series that I finished or got caught up on in 2020. I'm going to be talking about adult science fiction and fantasy and young adult science fiction and fantasy. But before we go ahead and get on into the books, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new content. I post new videos every Sunday and every Wednesday and sometimes Friday. Also, don't forget to check out in the description box links to all my social media, including my Discord where I host monthly buddy reads, as well as my Patreon. I'm going to go ahead and start with my adult series first, but if you're interested in checking out my young adult series only, I'll go ahead and put a timestamp down below. And Grayson says hi. He says, I want to be in the video, and I'm going to be meowing all the time. Aren't you? The first series I'm going to be talking about is the Villians series by V.E. Schwab. This series, I think there's one more book planned, but currently the only books in the series are Vicious and Vengeful. So this year I read Vengeful and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. But if you don't know what this series is about, it follows 2 college-age boys, Eli and Victor, as they are experimenting with ways to give themselves superhuman powers. And in book 1, we follow their journey as well as their fallout. And then in book 2, we kind of continue that journey. So this is a really, really dark superhero-like story with a very morally gray protagonist. And if there's going to be a book 3 or whenever it comes out, you know I'm going to be reading it. The next series I got caught up on was the Founders series by Robert Jackson Bennett, and the books so far in the series that are out are Foundryside and Shorefall. This book series follows one of the most unique magic systems that I've come across in adult fantasy, but basically you can write codes known as sigils in order to make things defy their reality. And it kind of mirrors what current artificial intelligence is in our day and age, and the fact that Robert Jackson Bennett was able to create a world and a magic system that was very allegorical of our current digital age is absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait to see where he goes with it in book 3. The next series I got caught up on is the Stormlight Archives by Sanderson. Yes, this is just the dust jacket because that book is so dang heavy to hold up. But as of filming this video, I am currently reading Rhythm of War and I'm about 50% of the way through, and I know I'm going to finish it by the end of December. But I actually started the Stormlight Archives this year in 2020 and have read all the way up through half of Rhythm of War, and it's easily become one of my favorite fantasy series. Now on to the 2 adult series that I finished. The first one is the Themis Files by Sylvain Nuevel. This is an adult science fiction trilogy, and it includes Sleeping Giants, Waking Gods, and Only Human. In Sleeping Giants, we follow a girl named Rose. When she is a child, she falls into a hole in the earth and lands in this gigantic metal robot hand. Fast forward about 2 decades later, and Rose is now a physicist in charge of trying to figure out where this hand came from and what it's doing on Earth, because it is definitely not of Earth origin. And her research opens up questions about who we are, where we came from, who are our descendants, is there intelligent life outside of Earth? And it's a really good series. I thoroughly enjoyed it. They're very fast-paced books, they're easy to get through, and it is told in interview format, which is something that I don't think I've ever read before and really, really enjoyed. So I feel like this book not only has scientific aspects to it, but it definitely has a lot of political intrigue as well. The next adult series I finished is the First Law Trilogy by Abercrombie. I finished this trilogy this year, and the books include The Blade Itself, Before They Are Hanged, and Last Argument of Kings. This is an adult grimdark fantasy series that follows a multitude of characters as they try to defend their kingdom against invading forces. And the thing that I like about this series is that none of these characters are especially likable. There's really not a character that I personally found myself rooting for, but at the same time, Abercrombie was able to make me empathize with these characters and want to see certain outcomes for them. So it definitely was a read like I've never experienced before, and I know that Joe Abercrombie has a spin-off series to this that I am totally here for and cannot wait to read. Now I'm going to be talking about the young adult series that I caught up on or finished. The first series I'm going to be talking about is The Monsters of Verity by Victoria Schwab. This is a duology and includes The Savage Song and Our Dark Duet. In this series, we follow a world where monsters are manifested through the sins of humans, and there's different monsters that manifest themselves depending on how bad the sin was. We follow a monster named August who wants nothing more than to be human, and then we follow Kate, who is a human who wants to be as ruthless as her father, who basically employs monsters that scare people into submission in his city. And due to an unexpected turn of events, August and Kate's paths cross and they have to team up in order to survive what's going on in their cities. The first series I got caught up on is the Curseworkers series by Brigid Kemmerer, and currently there's only 2 books out, and the first one is A Curse So Dark and Lonely and A Heart So Fierce and Broken. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and we follow a girl named Harper who lived in current day Washington, D.C., and one day she is kidnapped by someone from another world and brought to this completely different world in order to break the curse of Prince Wren. I really enjoy this series. Brigid Kemmerer's writing style is just so immersible, and I personally love Beauty and the Beast retellings, and I cannot wait for book 3, which I think comes out in January. The second series I got caught up on is the Skyward series by Sanderson, which so far includes Skyward and Starsight. This is a fun YA sci-fi series that follows a main character named Spensa, and in book 1, in order to kind of clear her father's name, who has been labeled a traitor, Spensa joins this prestigious flight academy because all she wants to do is be a pilot. They live on a world that is constantly under attack of these alien forces, so we follow Spensa's journey, and then in book 2, the world is completely expanded and Spensa ends up going to a different world. So I really enjoy this series. For their length, they're actually really easy to get into, and it's just a fun space alien fighter pilot time with a really funny sidekick AI known as Mbot. The next 4 series are all series that I have completed in 2020. The first series is This Mortal Coil Trilogy by Emily Suvada, and the books in this trilogy include This Mortal Coil, This Cruel Design, and This Vicious Cure. This sci-fi series is incredibly unique, and it's a series that I would honestly recommend for all ages because I feel like the science aspect and the world building of this series is so well done that I think even if you're a more seasoned sci-fi reader, you would definitely get something out of this. But in this series, we follow a world that has been decimated by this plague, and what we find out is that this plague is actually kind of bioengineered, and in this world, people and computers have kind of become one. Most people have some sort of computer technology built into their person, and we follow a girl who is trying to uncover the history of this disease, how it came about to hurt mankind, how her father might have been involved, and how she might be involved. And it's just a really fun whirlwind of a series. It's super fast, and like I said, the technology is awesome. It was so cool to read about. It's like nothing I've ever read before. This is a series I would definitely recommend if you're getting into sci-fi, or if you're someone who really likes that cyberpunk kind of science fiction. The next series I finished was The Strange the Dreamer duology by Laini Taylor, and those books include Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares. In this series, we follow a guy named Laszlo Strange, and he's a very quiet, kind of booky guy. He's a librarian, but since he was a child, he's been obsessed with learning about the lost city of Weep. There used to be a city named Weep, and one day it was completely erased from history, and everyone forgot about it, even Weep's real name. And one day an envoy comes unexpectedly to the city where Laszlo lives in, and basically says Weep still exists and it needs help, and Laszlo is recruited to go with this envoy back to this mysterious city because over time he has learned how to speak the ancient language of this city. And we kind of follow his journey. We uncover the history behind Weep, the history behind Laszlo himself. This book is filled with just gods and monsters and dreams and war and peace. There's a lot of themes of war and peace in here. And if you've read Laini Taylor before, you know that she has very flowery writing. But I'm really glad I finally decided to conclude this series in 2020. And the last YA fantasy series I finished in 2020 is the Three Dark Crowns Quartet by Kendare Blake. And this series includes 3 Dark Crowns, 1 Dark Throne, 2 Dark Reigns, and 5 Dark Fates. In this series, we follow 3 sisters, and they are triplets, and they are born knowing that they will have to compete against one another for rule of the throne of this magical island. And there are different types of magic that each sister possesses. There is elemental magic, naturalist magic, and poison magic. And this is a very dark, brutal series, and there's a lot of just outwitting and maneuvering and manipulations, and it's a really fun dark series, and I personally would probably pick up anything else that Kendare Blake writes. I would suggest this series for someone that is looking to get into fantasy or to transition from a young adult more into adult fantasy. Alright, you guys, so that is it for all of the series, both adult and young adult, that I finished or got caught up on in 2020. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these series and what you thought of them, or some series that you finished or got caught up on, or if you have any good recommendations of new series that I should start. And I will see you guys soon in another video. Goodbye.